tenebrous tingles.
Hello, listeners, loyal and new. Thank you so much for joining us for this time with Tenebrous Tingles, where Zandi and I are going to be wandering through Indiana to talk about some local folklore there. I am doing the House of Blue Lights and the terrifying Beast of Busco. What are you doing, Zandi?
I am going to be introducing you to the hauntings at the Stepp Cemetery and the Willard Library in Evansville.
I read about the Stepp Cemetery. I am familiar with that one now. I'm excited to hear your take on it.
Awesome. So, what made you decide not to do it?
Well, one of them, the House of Blue Lights, was actually a recommendation,
Mm-hmm.
and then the Beast of Busco was really cute. The one I'm not deciding to do the cemetery one, it was a little bit dark, I guess. I mean, not terribly dark, but it was, yeah, I just wasn't feeling it. I'm
Yeah.
excited to hear about it. But yeah, I just, there was so much to kind of wander through and learn, and that one just didn't grab me.
I understand.
Why?
It was dark, so it did grab me.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, why don't
So,
you introduce us to one of your stories first and then.
okay. So, the House of Blue Lights is actually kind of a famous Indiana story. I didn't realize it was, but my friend who lives there, she knew all about it. It was just kind of this thing that everybody knows about Indiana. Um, so it's my friend Jen. She and I were neighbors in California, so we've given her a shout out for that episode, and we'll do it again now. Hi,
Oh,
Jen.
hi Jen. Jen with the haunted
Hi,
house and the
Jen.
story the with the upstairs little boy.
Yes, that is right. She's
Awesome.
actually from Indiana, so we were neighbors in California, and that's where we met. But yeah, she had Indiana stories, and that's what she said I should look into for this episode. She also had some other ideas. They were much, much darker.
You didn't tell me. I'm
So much
disappointed.
darker. There was an asylum. It was a lot. I was like, I'm gonna go with the House of Blue Lights.
I considered
For
the
me,
asylum. I think I may do it for a Patreon episode.
yes, we do have Patreon episodes coming out, and they are darker things, even for me,
Yeah.
especially for Zandy. God, prepare for the trauma.
Ah.
Um, yeah, we've got lots of stuff coming. So the House of Blue Lights, it's really well known locally. I had personally never heard of it, but maybe you, as a listener, maybe you guys already know it, or maybe we are going to learn about it together. The latest version of the lore of the Blue House is that a reclusive millionaire lit his house with all blue lights after a personal tragedy. The natures and the details of that tragedy kind of vary as they tend to do in these stories. The most popular version, or well, at least the one that I heard, says that his wife passed away and he refused to relinquish her body. Instead, he kept her in the house with him. She remained in the house, somehow preserved or thought to be within blue illumination. Several people claimed they saw strange lights in the window while they were, wandering around when they should not have been, both before and after the house was abandoned. And they also have reported that they felt watched from inside the house, even during times when it should have been empty. It was sort of a rite of passage locally for several decades to go onto the property at night and look for the blue glow. The house itself has been gone since the mid 70s, and I think people still do go out there. They're hiking trails now, but people do still kind of go out there to look for the blue lights. Extra details were added to this legend over time. Things like underground tunnels and suspected secret experiments and ghostly lights seen in the woods even after the house and all of the buildings on the estate were gone. The House of Blue Lights was built in 1907 by Skiles Test. He was continually building on the estate, So there were several structures added and modified during his time there. He really kept up with it and just kept adding things. He lived on the property from 1913 until he passed away in 1964.
So like not like a Winchester estate kind of continuously building though, right?
That is not a part of the lore that I heard. No. This was just, he was really imaginative and he liked to build things. And so he just kept, modifying his property.
Okay, so like adding outbuildings and stuff,
Hmm.
not just like weird staircases to nowhere.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. No weird staircases to nowhere. Everything was actually incredibly functional. More so than that time frame actually had normalized.
Okay,
So
cool.
yeah, it is really cool. He was a wealthy businessman. He was known for being eccentric. He was known for his involvement with the development and manufacturing of fire extinguishers and fire safety devices. So he was kind of brilliant. On his property, he built custom lighting systems, just because, and mechanical displays for his own use. But these things did kind of give him a mad scientist reputation. And that does play into how he and the property are treated a little bit later. So, I mentioned earlier, he just kept building on the estate. There were several acres of land that he owned. It was not just a house, it had the large main house where he lived, but he also had a separate building for a swimming pool, including high diving boards. So, that's a lot of water, that's a lot of upkeep. Like,
Yeah.
this is a very fancy estate, even for today, but especially for then,
Oh
because
yeah.
that's a lot of maintenance. It had detached bathhouses for people to change and shower. There were barns and outbuildings, as well as mechanical and decorative structures. And there were lighting installations that he had built for, function and for the fun of it, just to be beautiful. There was even a miniature railway that he had also built that just kind of went through the property. All of that whimsical stuff on the property, and it was still a working farm. It was actually a functioning farm. He was well regarded by his neighbors and his employees. He was consistently described by both as intelligent but intense and eccentric. That word came up a lot in those descriptions of him. He valued his privacy a great deal, but he was still considered a very kind, gentle person. Like, you wouldn't find even ex employees speaking poorly of him. I couldn't really find anything about what any of his wives were like or how they were regarded. That's not necessarily unusual for that time. They kind of came and went. And they were quiet, I suppose, I suppose they were private people as well. He was well known for having a fondness for animals. There were always stray cats on the property and several pets that came and went. He even had a pet cemetery on the property because, with that many animals, that are living their lives there, that's sort of a necessity. One report that I saw said he had up to 109 cats at one time. I think that it would have been pest control too, not just, fluffy kitties everywhere, but also fluffy kitties everywhere. That sounds awesome. They had marked stones in the pet cemetery. Like, he had taken the time to put names and dates, so the animals that were there, they were loved.
Yeah, that's the unusual part.
Some of those markers are actually still there, having survived the many, many changes that the property had gone through over the years. The blue lights were something that people were seeing even while Mr. Test was living there. He had light displays, and the pool area was also illuminated, which would cause a blue tinged light that just kind of hovered over the whole place because of the blue water and the light that was shining down in it. It was said, though, that this light, which, honestly sounds kind of comforting, remains long after that pool water had all been drained and all of the light displays were gone. It just lingered in the air on that property. The legend sort of exploded in the 1940s through the 1960s. He was still living there at this time. All of the structures and displays were still standing at that point. The house is still occupied with him and his family. The light itself wasn't really a mystery. I think that there was this buildup kind of about the strange man living in the unusual house that seemed to glow. And this is the part of, my research where I was like, what? It sounds like people were not exactly respectful of
Oh
this man's
no.
property. Yeah. In the attempts to witness the novelty, there was constant trespassing, usually attributed to teenagers at the time, and they were just considering it an act of bravery to trespass onto the property for thrill seeking purposes. Before Skiles' test died, his employees regularly reported damage to the property, like cut fences, several break ins, specifically swimming in the pool without permission. But they got even bolder later on in the 50s and later 60s. They started going into outbuildings or in the house while these people were sleeping. They would just break into the house itself.
Oh no, 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 no. Do not come into my house when I'm sleeping. It will not end well for anybody.
Right? They got very, very rude, just overall, the way that they were treated. It gained a reputation for being haunted while he was living there. Honestly, with how people were acting, I sort of hope it was. I hope that there were ghosts scaring away the trespassers that were not acting right.
Yeah, or I don't know, get a big dog. Something. A vicious cat. I don't know. No,
Right, there were a
no.
lot of cats, and I don't know that they were doing their guard cat duties.
They
Or
should,
maybe they were, and that's where the haunting legend came from.
right? Spectral demon cat. No, that's just Mr. Tibbles.
Mr. Tibbles, he doesn't like that you're here. And that could be if you're invited, you know.
I mean, cats are cats.
The stress from the constant trespassing and the vandalism, it changed Mr. Test's lifestyle. It had a negative effect on his health. He and his wife didn't stay in the main house as much because it had begun to feel unsafe, which makes sense because people were constantly breaking in. They would sleep in other buildings on the property to just try to stay away from the nonsense.
Where were the local police?
Such a good question. They documented these things. Like, all of this is very well documented, but I don't know that a lot was really done.
Clearly not. And that is unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, and he also, like, their response to all these intrusions was honestly just to avoid confrontation with the trespassers whenever possible. They just tried to stay out of their way. And it also fed into the narrative that they were mysterious and reclusive. No, they just don't want you walking in on them while they sleep. That's not reclusive, that's just common sense. They continued to live and work on the farm with all of their employees. There was kind of a shift in how everyone felt about it. The place, it didn't feel the same. The thrill seeking teenagers sort of trampled the magic of the place, which is ironic since that's what had drawn them there in the first place. So pay attention to that if you are listening and thinking about trespassing because someplace seems really magical and interesting to you. You're going to ruin it. Don't do that. Be respectful. I didn't
Don't
quite
break into
realize where
people's
this.
houses. No,
Right. Don't do that.
no.
I didn't even realize where the story was going to go when I started researching it. I ended up really angry at how this cool place and the interesting people that, made it and lived there were treated kind of poorly. Skiles' Test died in 1964. The fascination with him and his property did not die with him. Nearly 50,000 people came to the estate sale. Um, a lot of them were there just to see the property. And I mean, that's better than trespassing because, at least you were sort of invited. Yeah, he held people's interest for a long time while he was alive and after he had passed. The house is gone now, as well as the other structures. Most of them were demolished in the late 70s. There's still bits and pieces left, like parts of foundations or fences, the stone markers from the pet cemetery. The land became the Skiles Test Nature Park. He had willed all of that land to the city of Indianapolis upon his death. And, I mentioned earlier the lore that I heard was the wife preserved in the house and that caused a blue glow. He was married 3 times. When he died, he left behind a living wife and 2 ex-wives. So there was no wife to preserve in his blue light house, embalmed. So that was just a rumor. The secret tunnels that were mentioned as part of the urban legends, there are tunnels. Some of them are still intact. They were a functional part of the estate then. Utility tunnels for servicing the pool and the machinery. It would just make things easier to get in where he needed to get. There were stories about nefarious experiments happening in laboratories on the property for said experiments. There has been no evidence to suggest that any part of that is true. There are still some reports from people about feeling eerie on the property. It's mostly hikers that are out there now because it's a nature park. There are some who still say that they see the blue light, even though there's no logical reason for that light to exist anymore. In this case, the truth about the House of Blue Lights may be more poignant than the myth, a community legend created by the mystery surrounding an aging private man on a large, interesting property that invited curious strangers and ill behaved thrill seekers. The legend does still endure, and there are those who insist that there is more and that it continues. I certainly will not negate those experiences. I hope that there is still some magic there to be found by someone wandering through respectfully.
I can't fathom somebody just nothing bad happening to repeated violation of these people's privacies and their lives to the point that they are sleeping in outbuildings.
Right. They were really kind about it. They were like, oh, people are breaking in. We should just.
No, that's not kindness. There's a you can be kind, but that's not kindness. There's something else going on. There had to be.
You think so?
I do. I think there had to be something else going on that the local police didn't get involved, that these people who worked on the place didn't do something about it. This was not a time frame where you could break into somebody's house and not get shot.
Well, they tried to press charges at times, but they were never fully pressed because there was not concrete evidence that linked any specific person to criminal activity.
Yeah, that we're not talking
Is the
about.
reason that is given now. But yeah, I don't know why they weren't shot. It sounds like they were very non confrontational.
I get that, but can you guarantee that everybody who worked there just I there's it doesn't feel right. It feels like there's a conspiracy of some nature
It kind of does, and maybe that helps build the legend too.
that it
Because there was so much trespassing, there was so much property damage, and it went on, and it was like this rite of passage for decades, and nothing was ever really done about it. They just started sleeping in other places for their own safety,
I mean, think
and
about how
I'm angry
many
about that for them.
yeah, think about how many places, how many stories we have done recently. Like not recently, but how many stories we have done since we started this where somebody's like, okay, well, something's killing our animals. Let's form a posse. Or somebody's scaring people by jumping out of trees wearing corn cobs. Let's build a posse. There's people are doing things about this sort of activity.
Right, and it does seem very passive, which again, it makes it seem like, oh, something must have been going on. And I mean, obviously I wasn't there. I can't say for sure nothing was. I can only say that the evidence was no longer there of anything criminal by the time the public was able to go through it.
No, I don't think that it's that the homeowners weren't reporting it. I think that there's some sort of conspiracy going on with why it wasn't investigated, why they didn't stay up at night, why an officer wasn't stationed there overnight to catch the wrongdoers.
Ooh, yeah.
this
Or guards. You have employees, so
Yeah, so
you know.
nobody got shot despite the fact that there's these employees who are living on the property too. So maybe the homeowners are passive, but that doesn't mean that everybody who works there is going to be.
It's true.
It seems odd. I don't know.
It
I'm
seems odd and incomplete, and that helps it remain folklore.
I guess, yeah. All right.
So, are you gonna make us angry?
I am
Or are you
not
gonna
going to make
traumatize
us
us?
angry. I am going to just tell us about the Stepp Cemetery near Martinsville, Indiana.
Okay.
So, the Stepp Cemetery is deep inside the Morgan Monroe State Forest. It's an isolated pioneer cemetery. It's widely considered Indiana's most terrifying location, which is kind of interesting considering it is only a handful of graves from the 1800s. It's not even like a huge cemetery or anything, and it is out in the middle of nowhere. So, the most famous story revolving around the cemetery is about a grieving mother. So it is a woman who lost her baby and buried it in the cemetery. This was a family cemetery. And it was the 1800s. So infant mortality was problematic. You know, it could be anything from typhus to chickenpox, just to getting any kind of fever or just failure to thrive, SIDS. You know, there's just lots of things that they didn't know about that caused infant mortality. So we don't know what happened to the child. Nothing. We don't think it was anything nefarious. But it was a family
Mm.
cemetery. The woman did lose her baby, and the baby was buried in the cemetery. The woman appears at night, dressed in black, and she is seen rocking an invisible child in her arms or holding swaddling of clothing in her arms like a baby while she wanders between the graves. And some people claim that if you are very quiet when you're there, you can hear the faint sounds of a baby crying or a woman crying out in the woods. So, the reported paranormal activity over the years, people have reported shadow figures moving between the trees, the aforementioned lady in black, sudden cold spots, even in the middle of Indiana summer, the sensation of feeling watched or feeling as if someone is following you, the sensation of being dizzy or being nauseated, EVPs, and I'm going to go into some of the EVPs that we've had. So there are baby sounds, which is faint crying or whimpering, soft cooing noises. Some describe what they think sounds like a baby's laughter, and these tie to the grieving mother legend. There is a female voice that whispers, "Help me, my baby."
Mm.
Unclear whispering directly behind investigators in a female tone, but they can't make out the words. A woman's voice saying, "Leave." Many of these recordings occur near the back row of the graves. There is also a deep male voice that says, "Get out," breathing sounds close to the microphone, and a deep male voice that will occasionally respond to direct question and that he has given, unintelligible murmurs.
Are there differences in the general vibe depending on how people approach it,
I
or on who is asking?
I don't know. That wasn't something I could find when I was looking up like how the EVPs are coming across. It didn't say whether some of them came across more angrily or if they came across differently depending on what you were asking. I'm guessing if you were asking about the lady specifically, maybe you would get a response from her, but that's only a guess because I don't have any direct evidence either way. So, in addition to the EVPs and the feeling followed and everything else like that, there are other ambient anomalies. So, there are sudden wood knocks, like the sound of like when you take a stick, like a large stick, and bash it against a tree trunk. The same thing people claim that they hear when they're hunting Bigfoot. The wood on wood knocking sounds.
Right.
Footsteps in leaves when there's no one present, growl like noises in low tones in the distance, which, I mean, frankly, I love that sound, but Maybe not when I'm outside by myself.
I mean, I need to know who's making those
Yeah,
specific sounds to know whether or
yeah.
not I enjoy it. There's a
That's
time and a place.
there is a time and a place and a person for these things, right? Um,
Yes.
Physical scratches appearing after visits, strange glowing lights deeper in the forest, so they feel like they are kind of leading them deeper into the forest. But you go closer to them and you never actually get closer to the lights.
It's like a
And
will o' the wisp.
yeah, like that. Many people say that the woods also go unnaturally silent before something happens. So before someone has an encounter, the woods go very, very quiet. So you'll be hearing, I don't know, cicadas or tree frogs or crickets or whatever else is going on at night in the woods, and then it'll stop, and then you'll hear the wood knock. So one of the encounters that I discovered was what we determined to be the scratches in the dark encounter. And it was a small group of late night visitors who went into the cemetery just before midnight. The woods were completely silent, no insects, no wind, which was, again, unusual. And as they stood near the back row of gravestones, one member said she felt like someone stepped right behind her. She turned around and there was no one there. One person began to feel dizzy and nauseated. Another said they saw a tall, dark shape move between the trees just beyond the cemetery boundary. When they decided to leave, when they decided to leave, the woman who felt watched suddenly screamed. She said something grabbed her jacket from behind. The whole group ran back to their vehicle as
Just leave her.
no, she ran too. They all ran. It wasn't. Yeah, we
Just
know
said,
those
"Oh no, I'm
situations.
grabbed." They're like booking it out of there.
Yeah, absolutely. She screamed and everybody took off. Is what happened, her included.
With her.
Yeah, with her. So she screamed and everybody took off running, including her. So once inside the car, they turned the headlights on and they noticed that there were 3 long red scratch marks down her back. She insisted that nothing had touched her and no one in the group had been close enough to cause it. The scratches were swollen and they burned and hurt for hours after.
Would you be side-eyeing your hiking companions at
I
that point?
would be, but if nobody was near me when it happened, I mean, what can you do? What can you say?
A lot. I can say a lot.
So the lady after this refused to talk about her experience again. The group never returned to the cemetery at night. But there have been similar scratch reports from multiple other people who have visited the cemetery over the years, and they are often described as 3 claw like marks. Important things to note: this is a state forest property. It is closed after dark, it is actively patrolled, and many of these stories come from trespassing after hours, and that can lead to being fined. So if you're caught, so don't trespass. You will be caught because it is actively patrolled. You will be fined. You may be scratched.
Maybe worse. These are the people that came back.
Right.
So that's not the legend that I heard at all.
What did you hear about the Stepp Cemetery?
That, well, I don't want to get them mixed up, but that there were 100 steps and like actual like a staircase, and that if you climbed all the way up those stairs, you would be told how you die.
Okay, that's weird, but also this is the Stepp family, so it's Stepp.
Gotcha.
It's not a
Yeah, totally different thing.
staircase. Yeah, different cemetery, different situation. This is an old pioneer family cemetery out in the woods in the middle of nowhere in a state forest in Indiana, not somewhere where there's 100 stairs.
I got them mixed up. I heard step and I thought, oh, same thing. It's not.
It's
My
not.
bad.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so what else do you have for us?
Okay, I have Beast of Busco. There is a creature lurking beneath the waters of a quiet lake in the town of Churubusco. The Beast of Busco is a giant turtle. Giant though, as in bigger than a car. He's described as just that enormous. It lives in or near Folk Lake and reportedly still does briefly surface once in a while before it vanishes beneath the waterline again. Some stories claim that it is a really old snapping turtle, and others say that it is something older, a survivor of a prehistoric species that's just kind of left behind. Either way, town has built this, they've embraced the beast as one of their own. Churubusco has an annual festival called Turtle Days to honor their cryptid. There are turtle themed floats in a parade, turtle themed food shaped, turtle shaped, not made from
Okay.
turtles, because
Good. Yeah.
that would be rude,
Yeah.
as well as historical displays and public storytelling about the lore of the Beast of Busco. Apparently, he even brings in tourists, which I believe it would work for me. This has made it onto my list of places to visit. There's little statues of him throughout the town, miniatures, because, he's a really giant turtle. But the whole thing began in 1949 when a farmer named Oscar Folk saw a giant turtle in the lake on his property near Churubusco. The newspapers reported the turtle to be hundreds of pounds, sometimes even reported at 500 pounds or more. He did not claim anything supernatural about the sighting. He just thought it was a very large snapping turtle that had lived in the lake for a long time. There was a very large search for the turtle. Local newspapers picked up the story. It garnered all of this interest. Interest in the search just sort of expanded throughout the region with the media help and word of mouth. People started coming from out of town to assist with the search. Some of them were actual, they had helpful skills like conservation officers and hunters. And others just showed up with a willingness and some time to wander about looking for a large turtle. They even partially drained the lake to try to find him. So at this point, I was asking why it was so important to find this poor thing. Like, he wasn't hurting anything. Just let him be. Like, he's in the lake. He's good. He comes up once in a while to say hi. He obviously hasn't hurt anybody. Beyond just wanting the verification of the sighting, there were actual scientific and safety concerns surrounding his presence there. It was a concern that an animal that big posed a danger to the wildlife or the livestock or even the people on the property. It was 1949, so I am sure that not everyone looking for him had kind plans for him should he have been found.
No.
But I think probably some did.
But if he was a snapping turtle, though, he did not have kind plans for anybody anyway, because snapping turtles are evil.
They're so mean.
They're so mean.
They're not nice. But, either way, he wasn't found, this particular snapping turtle, if that's what he was.
Yeah.
There were several more sightings, many more witnesses, especially with, everyone kind of looking for him, but he could not be captured despite all of the efforts to do so. And at that point, it started to become supernatural in explanation.
Oh.
So the sightings. Some sources claim that the sightings began in 1898, spanning the years until the heavily documented sightings in 1949. Folk, the property owner, saw the turtle multiple times over his years in Folk Lake. He described it as unusually large and elusive because, it's a wild animal. And his many sightings and statements about them were documented in the newspaper. Newspapers across Indiana and in neighboring states documented the very organized attempt to find the turtle. The lake was dragged, as well as partially drained, like I said before. Large hooks and nets were used, which sounds not very nice. While nothing of extraordinary size was recovered, you'd think that it would recover anything that was in that lake, honestly. Participants did sometimes claim to feel extremely heavy tugging on the lines. Maybe they caught the ground, or maybe they caught a giant dinosaur turtle. I don't know. While several residents also reported seeing an extremely large turtle shaped just under the water, no photographs, physical remains, or biological evidence has been documented. And, you know, thus continued the lore that it was more than a large animal, possibly something supernatural or ancient. There was a lot of attention on this. So, wildlife personnel noticed, took part in the search for the turtle. There were experts looking for evidence that he was there. While they did not confirm the existence of a giant turtle, their involvement at all demonstrates that this situation was taken really seriously at the time. It was not treated like a myth or a hoax. And there are, of course, logical explanations. The simplest theory is that it was a very large snapping turtle. Maybe the size was exaggerated. Maybe it actually got as big as a car. I don't know. Alligator snapping turtles and common snapping turtles, they can get really, really big on their own, especially if they've got a large body of water all to themselves, which it sounds like he kind of did.
Yeah.
And another theory is that it was just misidentified because of the lack of visibility from the water that can distort the size of things.
Hmm.
There's also, to be taken into account, expectation bias. Once the media got involved and all the attention escalated, people were expecting to see something unusual. They came out with this heavy expectation. And this expectation can influence perception, especially in an environment like murky water, while being surrounded by people who are also expecting to see that same something unusual. All those things are, very logical theories. There are also some less conventional, but still recorded theories. The first is that the turtle is a surviving relic of a prehistoric species that had just gone unnoticed. Even without biological evidence supporting this, the idea persists in folklore retellings, and I kind of enjoy that one. Another is that the beast is actually a mythical guardian of the lake, which would kind of explain why he couldn't be found. So it was never going to be found, it was only seen when it wanted to be. And whether or not any of these versions are true, people did have experiences. And now that giant turtle is sort of a town mascot and is bringing people together. And a lot of visitors come for the silliness of it. And I'm excited to include this festival in summer travel plans just for the experience. I kind of love that no matter what the truth is. So you have another story for us, is that correct, Miss Sandy?
Yes. I am going to talk about the Willard Library. It's in Evansville, Indiana. It is often called Indiana's most famous haunted building, and it is best known for its resident spirit of the Gray Lady, which there are several ghost story Gray Ladies in many different states, many different places. I guess when you think about ghosts, thinking about them being gray kind of makes sense. So the Willard Library was built in 1885. It is a Victorian Gothic style library. It sits in downtown Evansville and was founded by businessman Willard Carpenter as a free public library for the community, which is great because we love a public library.
Hmm.
The Gray Lady is said to be the spirit of Louise Carpenter, Willard Carpenter's daughter. According to local lore, she was upset about how her father's estate was handled. I don't know why. I don't know how the estate was handled, but it was said in local legend that she was upset about it. So her spirit now lingers in the library. She appears to be a misty figure or a woman in a long gray dress. Staff members have reported seeing her on staircases and balconies, hearing unexplained high heel shoe type footsteps, books falling without explanation, and cold spots in empty rooms. The Willard Library became nationally known as a haunted location when it installed live webcams in the late 1990s called ghost cams. And viewers claim to see moving shadows, apparitions crossing hallways, strange light anomalies. The footage gained attention nationally on paranormal TV shows and with paranormal investigators. So they don't still have the webcams or the ghost cams or anything else like that going live. And I don't know what the state of webcams was in the 90s. I mean, surely it would have been glitchier than it would be today. just because you didn't really have dedicated streaming services. Like, you didn't have fiber internet with Wi-Fi kind of things going on in the 90s. So I don't really know. And also, our CCTV has improved since then. Our camera technology has improved since then. So I don't really know how good these ghost cams were, but they were a thing, and it's kind of cool. So some of the reported paranormal activity over the decades, people have claimed to hear disembodied voices, lights flickering, doors opening and closing on their own, the feeling of being watched. Employees say that the activity tends to increase at night after closing, but then that would be when you noticed it, right? You wouldn't really know whether or not that door opening and closing by sound over there is someone just came in and out when there are people coming in and out. It's kind of hard to, like, is that a footstep of somebody in a, like, the carol over there, or is that a ghost? Well, there's nobody else here, so that's not somebody standing over there. One of the encounters is what's considered the staircase encounter. It was in the early 1990s, and a library staff member was working after hours, closing up the building. She was walking towards the main staircase, and she noticed what she thought was a patron standing on the landing above her. She clearly describes a woman in a long gray dress with her dark hair pulled back. She has a pale face and a calm expression. She assumed someone had stayed past closing, and she called up politely to ask if the woman needed help. There was no response. The figure slowly turned and walked along the balcony towards the side hallway. The employee followed immediately because obviously it was after closing. The lady didn't need to be there. But when she reached the landing seconds later, the hallway was empty. There were no sounds of doors opening, no footsteps, no places to hide. The building had already been checked and locked, so it couldn't be someone just was, like, there. It was clearly the spirit. When security footage was reviewed from that evening, the staff reported seeing faint shadow-like movement on camera around the same time, but not a clear human figure. The sighting became one of the most discussed internal accounts among employees, and it's because the librarian had worked there for years. She was not somebody that was a new employee or anything like that. She had worked there alone. She was not somebody who was prone to exaggeration. She was reportedly very shaken by the incident. Yep. And this story is considered to be one of the more credible because, again, this is a long-time employee who is not prone to exaggeration and who had closed many times before. It's not a story involving teenagers or ghost tours or paranormal groups or anything else like that. It was from a professional staff member doing their normal shift. And she maintained for years that she knew what she saw and it was not a trick of the light.
I believe her.
Yeah, I'd believe her. Another thing that happened was that during the webcams set up inside the building, one night viewers watching remotely reported seeing a pale human-shaped mist near the children's room doorway. It appeared to move across the hall, then it seemed to dissolve into the wall. What made it stand out was that the camera angle did not change. There were no staff in the area that night. The shape had a defined upper body and head outline. Screenshots circulated online, and the library acknowledged that something unusual had been recorded, though they never officially labeled it as paranormal. But it was witnessed by several people watching the live stream, and they did take various screenshots at several different locations, several different viewers. So that's really interesting. There have been paranormal investigations that have happened there at the Willard Library, and because I know you like these, there have been reported EVPs. One of them is soft female whispering. Investigators have claimed recordings of the words hello, yes, leave me, and of course unintelligible murmuring. It is described as calm and not aggressive. There have been disembodied footsteps captured on microphones. They are slow and deliberate steps on a staircase, like someone just going up the stairs. There have been sounds of movement in empty hallways, rustling fabric sounds like somebody walking in a long skirt. And these have occurred after closing hours when nobody in a long skirt is going to be around. During the EVP sessions, some investigators reported possible responses to direct questions, such as, is someone here with us? And a faint yes. Are you Louise? And a soft sound that is interpreted as being no. But it's important to note that these are subjective interpretations. The Willard Library is a public place, so you can go there during the day at any time. There are still allowed paranormal investigations, but you do have to get permission to be there after dark. You can't just break in and or hang around after closing or whatever. It is a public venue, but you still have to be respectful even at night. Yes, you can ask. And they do still schedule some paranormal investigations after dark.
Would you spend the night in the library with me?
I would, yeah. Absolutely.
I would actually just love to spend the night in a library generally.
Yeah, I mean, just any
like we would just set up little snacks and lay on the floor and read all the books. Yeah, no, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I kind of wanted...
Oh, and there's ghosts. So.
Yeah, that would be cool too. But also just books and snacks and a slumber party. Yes. I'm there for that too. So that is the Willard Library. And that is what I have for you guys today. And next time, we are going to be in Iowa.
That's right, we're going to Iowa. Have you been to Iowa?
I have been to Iowa. It was very flat.
Me too. Very. But I thought it was really interesting.
I thought it was really nice. The people were really nice that I met there. Generally.
There's a place called, it's the Corn Palace. And so I went there because I'm a sucker for like silly roadside stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was actually so interesting. I mean, there's a lot of historical stuff there too, but they had like murals that they had made with corn that had been dried. So all the different colors, and it was like all put together to make murals of dried corn. And they were really intricate and beautiful.
That's pretty.
I thought so.
Now, have you been to Indiana? Since we're talking about Indiana today.
Yes, I've driven through Indiana a lot. I haven't done a lot of pausing in Indiana. That's kind of been a drive-through for me. The last time I drove through this summer on my way to the East Coast. And I guess I'll be driving through it again on my way to the East Coast again this summer. So maybe I'll stop in Indiana and check some stuff out.
I have driven through a couple of times, like, going places, but the only times I've been to Indiana and like stayed overnight, it was for Gen Con. So, not really a haunted excursion, just a nerdy one.
I mean, it can be.
Yeah.
You can be the haunting that you wish to see.
I mean...
You keep talking about if you're a ghost.
Yeah.
If you were a ghost, you would wear armor and follow people around. You don't have to wait.
I don't.
Girl, do
That's
it
true.
now. I believe in you.
I did not wear armor to Gen Con, though. I didn't even cosplay.
Aw.
Yeah. It was fine, though. Maybe next time. Which is not going to happen because I think I'm not really a crowd kind of person. So, anyway.
Well, thank you for listening, our lovely listeners that have stayed with us. And if you know what we should do for Iowa, please reach out. We love hearing the ideas. I love finding out these new things and sometimes old things, being able to talk about old things with friends that, I did know about, or finding out things that I didn't, and in the pursuit of these stories. And so if you have a story for us, our information should be linked. We do have Patreon episodes coming out. And I guess that's it for me. Zandi, what about you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So our email is tenebrous.tingles@gmail.com. And yeah, let us know if you have anything for Iowa or somewhere else that you want us to talk about, you want us to research, you want us to do an episode on. We will absolutely love to hear from you guys. And we will see you next time. For now, thank you for joining us.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.